Hey everybody, welcome to VMworld Europe 2016. Today we are going to be talking about accelerating large-scale VDI success with a new Cisco validated design produced jointly by Pure Storage as well as Cisco. My name is Kyle Grossmiller. I'm a VDI solutions architect at Pure Storage, so let's get to it. So let's talk about a little bit of history around VDI before we get into the Cisco validated design. When VDI first came out, it was more of a cost-saving technology that was put into place for task workers and call center workers, people who didn't have that personalization layer. It was more of a stateless desktop, and it was purely a cost-saving measure. So as VMware has added feature and function to their VDI technologies, things like graphics intensive workloads, knowledge workers, and more just intensive workers. That's added a lot of scope, but it's also added a lot more factors that customers need to take into play when they deploy their environment. Things like performance and reliability of the environment. If you put your executives on your VDI environment, you do not want it to go down without reason for any long amount of time. And then of course being able to scale is another very important component of that. So when VDI first came out as well, there were numerous, I think it kind of got a black eye when it initially came to market. First and foremost is that the unresponsive, inconsistent desktop experience. If your end users are not happy with the solution, then chances are you're going to get more calls to your help desk, and in some cases users will even stall the project and it will not move forward at all. And as you add additional use cases and scope to the project as well, that can be another barrier for VDI success. And last but not least, in a lot of cases we've seen customers who have done a pilot successfully with VDI, and then when they try to scale and grow it beyond that pilot size, some resource within the environment gets saturated and they're unable to scale above and beyond that. But at the end of the day, it's really all about the end user experience. I always tell customers that the most important requirement for their VDI project is that the virtual desktop environment needs to perform at least as good, but ideally better than the physical device that it's going to replace. And what that really comes down to is latency. Latency is a measure of response time. IOPS is a measure of concurrency. So you hear a lot of storage vendors make a big deal about, we can drive X number of IOPS, but I would argue that the more important metric from a VDI perspective is actually latency. Because latency is response time, that's that snappiness when you open up Office or Adobe Acrobat Reader or something like that, whereas IOPS is a measure of concurrency. So an all-flash array like Pure Storage is able to drive hundreds of thousands of IOPS at sub-millisecond latency, thereby basically guaranteeing an outstanding end-user experience. Even when you're doing things like patch storms, boot storms, recompose operations, things of that nature. So with that, Pure has introduced our converged infrastructure solution. Is called FlashStack. It's highly scalable, non-disruptively scalable, so you can start with hundreds of desktops in a UCS Mini paired with an M10 form factor, and then from there non-disruptively scale up. So as you add users and use cases and as your VDI project takes off, you're able to actually non-disruptively scale up both compute as well as storage without taking any downtime for the end user whatsoever, ever. That's part of our value with FlashStack, is that it's a very highly resilient infrastructure with no single point of failure. So what that means is that even if a component goes down, say if a Nexus switch goes down or something like that, your end users are still going to maintain 100% performance through that downtime. Or even if you want to say upgrade a server or do something like that, you're going to be able to do that without impacting your existing users. The other thing that's I think really neat about this is that this is a very, very dense architecture, so we are able to fit 5,000 concurrent users all within a single rack unit. I'll get into that a little bit later to show you what those densities look like. But yeah, so this is the Cisco validated design that Pure Storage and Cisco have jointly produced. Cisco validated designs are basically the gold standard in the industry for a referenceable blueprint that takes you step by step through the creation, deployment, and setup for the entire infrastructure from the ground up. We're talking screenshot by screenshot setup of the entire validated design. So what does it look like? Let's get a little bit more into the details of the user breakdown from within this 5,000 seat deployment. This testing was done with VMware Horizon 6.2. We used 1,450 RDSH sessions concurrently, and then we did 3,550 link clone sessions. So that's how we arrived at that 5,000 seat number. So we didn't just show link clone desktops by themselves. We actually showed a couple of different VMware technologies running concurrently in order to show that kind of mixed workload experience. This was also tested using Login VSI, which is the industry standard VDI benchmarking tool. And basically we were able to maintain excellent results throughout the various scenarios that we presented, including actually one scenario where we performed a Purity code upgrade while the 5,000 desktops were all running concurrently, and there was no user impact whatsoever while when that upgrade took place. So let's take a look at what it looks like at a more detailed level, at the rack unit level. So first, of course, we have the Pure Storage array. That's a 5U box, so basically we ran all 5,000 desktops from within this 5U form factor. Highly resilient array, no single point of failure there, obviously. We then set up our network and SAN with 6U, so we used Cisco MDS switches, 2 of those, and then 2 Nexus 9Ks. And again, very resilient infrastructure, so that's why we have them paired, is that there's no point of failure. So if one of those goes down or needs to be replaced, you maintain 100% performance throughout that failure scenario. Lastly, of course, is the Fabric interconnects, which we use to control the UCS servers. We accomplished this with 30 UCS B200 M4 servers. So that was running all of our VMware infrastructure as well as our virtual desktops, all within that those 30 B200 M4 servers. Again, all that fits within a single rack. We often get questions, why did you pick 5,000 as the number to support within the Cisco validated design? And it's really twofold. First and foremost is that all of them fitting within a single rack unit, I think, is a very dense and I think logical way to build a deployment. And second, of course, is the thought of fault domains and fault tolerance. So, how big of a VDI pod do you want to run before you, how big of a VDI instance do you want to run before you start to think about fault tolerance and disaster recovery in scenarios like that. So 5,000 was a good round number for that type of situation. So what does Pure Storage enable from a VDI administrator standpoint? These are obviously kind of an eye chart, but just to show you, these are what we typically see in terms of metrics that basically accelerate you as a VDI administrator being able to do your job. Things like being able to boot 500 desktops in under 4 minutes. Things like being able to recompose desktop pools in under 4 minutes. In my former life, we were running a VDI deployment on mechanical spinning disk arrays, and operations like that recompose operation actually would take 45 minutes to complete. So being able to do it in 4 minutes is a huge efficiency gain if you're a VDI administrator, because no longer are you setting off a recompose operation at the end of the day and then having to check on it, at certain points on the night to make sure it completed. Since it's so fast with an all-flash array like Pure Storage, you're able to check it, mere moments and you're done, rather than having to check in overnight. So with that, I'll end again. This is the new Cisco validated design for a 5,000 seat VDI deployment. I strongly encourage you to check it out, download it. It's several hundred pages long and takes you screenshot by screenshot on how to set up the 5,000 seat deployment, and then we actually go through and test it at the single server scale level, and then we test it at various cluster levels as well throughout. We also do failure testing and things like that, so a very complete design, and thank you, and please check it out.